Hello YouTube, Fresh Mika here with my third installment of my Disney Princess Perspectives. And today it will be focused on the one and the only Princess Aurora, also known as Briar Rose, or in layman's terms, based on her 1959 film, Sleeping Beauty. Most people know the story of Sleeping Beauty. You know, she pricks her finger and she ends up falling into deep sleep and must be saved by Prince, and only his lips can bring her back from sleep. The original concept of Sleeping Beauty was actually based on an original French fairy tale, and of course it was redone by the company. Now, some may know about Aurora and some people may not. She seems to be one of the not so well known princesses, in my opinion. Most people don't know about Aurora. Most people probably haven't even seen Sleeping Beauty. In fact, it was a film I recently had to rewatch in order to fully understand it, because I know a little bit about Aurora, but I didn't know so much. And for everyone that may be in the same predicament as I am in, I'm going to now introduce you, help you get to know better Princess Aurora. Without further ado, here is Sleeping Beauty. Now the story begins with Sleeping Beauty's parents, King Stefan and Queen Leia, who in the beginning could not produce a child and were having trouble, conceiving. It is then, after many years of times, that they conceived a beautiful daughter by the name Aurora. And it was at the celebration of their daughter that King and Queen decided to have basically a Christian or a baptism, either or, and invite all to the kingdom to celebrate the glorious birth of the new princess. It is there at her christening that she actually is betrothed to her future true love, Prince Philip, the son of King Hubert, and it was an attempt for the two kingdoms to come together as one, which in my opinion is a cool thing that was done during medieval times, the betrothed of a prince and a princess to unite a kingdom together. And it was the unition of these kingdoms, that they would be strong against any war or anything that could bring their kingdoms down. So a classic fairy tale thing. At the christening of the young princess, are of course the three fairies, Flora and Merryweather, who all bless the young princess with special gifts. So it begins with the fairy Flora blessing young Princess Aurora with the gift of beauty, and then the second fairy, Fauna, gives the gift of song. Now before Merryweather could even give her blessing, who shows up but the witch Maleficent, who is quite angered, although not appearing at first, have been let out of the festivities. It is then that he places a curse on the young princess, that when her 16th birthday approaches, she will prick her finger on a spindle and die. She then leaves in evil laughter. Merryweather, her blessing is that she weakens the curse enacted by Maleficent and changes it from death to a deep sorrow. The king, in fear, orders all spindles to be destroyed and burned, so that his young daughter will not face the challenge of a deep slumber. The fairies, of course, are going to try their hardest to protect the princess with whatever they can do. Now, also added to Merryweather's blessing, that it is her true love's kiss, or her betrothed Prince Philip, that will break the spell. True kiss, and again, typical fairy tale mannerisms. So it is then that the fairies will soon pose as peasant women and whisk the young princess away to raise her, so that they could further protect her from the evil Maleficent. It is soon that the fairies posing as the peasant women, thanks to the king and queen's consent, whisk her away and live their lives in disguise. Now, while the years are passing by, Maleficent is quite angry because years and years and years have passed and she has not yet found the princess herself. So there she is quite angered by the fact that the fairies have managed to evade her this long. It is after these years that soon she sends out her pet raven, and they are now going to continue their search for the missing princess. I also too have added, before Maleficent sent out her pet raven, attention that her guards for these many years, or the past 16 years, have been looking for an infant, completely forgetting that age, which further angers Maleficent even more at how possibly dumb her guards are. Now, after all this is done, we soon go to young Princess Aurora, who has been raised as Briar Rose. The day has finally come, and of course, it is her 16th birthday. So Aurora, or as we're going to call her now, Briar Rose, is of course singing and is very beautiful, which are of course two things that I described in my Snow White video as essentially a Disney princess. It's then on her birthday that the fairies tell her to go and pick berries. Now, of course, another Disney princess mannerism I told you about is that you get along well with animals, and she is of course singing to her animal friends and singing to the animals while picking berries. It is there that who hears her lovely voice? None other than her betrothed Prince Philip, as poor Samson, and they are quite impressed by the beautiful young girl. The two meet, and in Disney princess fashion, except for the exception of a few of the last princesses, love is instantly found between the two, and it seems that they are smitten with each other. Now, basically, after they falling for each other, Briar Rose realizes she has to return back to the cottage with the fairies. Of course, Flora and Merryweather are deciding, or arguing for the matter, about her dress, whether or not it should be blue or pink. Pink, which of course is her signature Disney princess dress, although I think her blue one is just as lovely. Now, after all this is said and done, Briar Rose is returning to the cottage without knowing her prince's name. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Cinderella, perhaps? But enough about that. I'm also going to mention this. While the fairies were arguing over a simple color of a dress, Maleficent's raven realizes that these are in fact the long lost good fairies, and soon runs back and tells Maleficent of the fact. So we all know what that means. She now knows. Now, realizing that the raven and Maleficent now know, the fairies reveal to Briar Rose that she's not in fact Briar Rose, but more like Princess Aurora, daughter of King Stefan and Queen Leia. And of course, this is shocking to Briar Rose, or as we can start calling her, Aurora, and they soon reintroduce her back to her parents. I could see now where Tangled got the idea. Sorry, there's just so much elements from others in Sleeping Beauty that it's easy to, attribute to her own story. Now, we soon go to a very headstrong Prince Philip, who is madly in love with Briar Rose. He has no idea that she is missing Princess Aurora. He tells his father that he's in love with her and wants to marry her. And of course, the father, not realizing what happened, is basically saying, you must marry Princess Aurora. Your marriage is prearranged. But of course, Prince Philip, as headstrong as he is, doesn't listen to a word his father says and has it in mind that he's going to marry Briar Rose. Now we go to Miss Maleficent. While back in the palace of her father, wearing one of her signature dresses, or the signature blue dress, it is in which Maleficent traps young Princess Aurora and leads her to a room with the on the spinning wheel. It is there that under Maleficent's spell, Aurora pricks her finger and falls into her deep sleep. Now mind you, she had to do this before sundown, because after sundown the spell would be broken. But Maleficent got to her right in time. The fairies, realizing they were too late to stop Maleficent, take her body and lies it at the top of the tower onto a bed where she is lying in a deep slumber. Fate is being said and done. King Hubert, the father of Prince Philip, informs Aurora's father, King Stefan, that Prince Philip has fallen in love with a peasant girl and has gone to be with her. The fairies, realizing where Prince Philip is going, it now realizes that, hey, this is who Briar Rose was in love with. And now, we reside to Prince Philip going to the cottage and trying to find Briar Rose, the girl he fell in love with, in which Maleficent's minions find him and take him. The fairies then, of course, head to Maleficent's castle, where they, of course, see Maleficent mocking Prince Philip and telling him that Briar Rose, the girl you fell in love with, was really your betrothed princess, and that she was going to basically hold him prisoner until he was old, a very old man, knocking on death's door and realizing that the princess in her deep sleep would not age a bit. And it is then that she said, I will release you, where you will be old and she will have stayed young, mocking him and laughing evilly as she walks away. The fairies soon come in and break Prince Philip free. Soon arm him with the sword of truth and shield of virtue, in which they go in, first kicking the butts of all of Maleficent's minions, who are there trying to prevent Prince Philip from escaping. It is then, all of that Maleficent surrounds King Stefan's castle with sort of thorns, but Philip gets through it anyway. Maleficent, at her rope's end, transforms into a giant dragon so she can try to defeat the prince herself. Through a lengthy and powerful battle, Prince Philip throws the sword into Maleficent's heart, killing her as she returns to her normal self and falls down into her death, turns into ash. Prince Philip then runs up to the tower and kisses Aurora's lips. She wakes up, and of course their love is resumed. Did I also mention that everyone in the palace was under a sleeping spell? Sorry, I forgot to mention that. But for the most part, the two return down to the ballroom where Aurora united with her parents, and the couple dances into their happy ever after, with the fairies still arguing over the color of her dress. But it's the last dress seen before the film ends is pink. That is what Disney has made her signature dress to be. All in all, Sleeping Beauty is a great tale. It has a lot of your, typical fairy tale mannerisms. True love's first kiss, instantly falling in love, magic, things of that nature are all involved. And all I'm gonna say, at least in all of the Disney princess movies, the exceptions I'm gonna say, I would say Pocahontas and Mulan, to an extent, are the only ones that did not involve some form of magic. I would say they're the only one that didn't have anything magic related in them. But for the most part, Sleeping Beauty, as I stated, Aurora fits almost all of your typical Disney princess standards. Number one, you must be beautiful. Aurora is beautiful. Number two, you must be able to interact with animals. She does, as in when she first introduced as Briar Rose. 3, you must have a prince. She is betrothed as an infant. She's the only Disney princess to have been betrothed as a child. And to add, that's basically, it. You have to have a prince. You have to have some form of animal interaction. You have to be beautiful. Oh, and to add, you have to be able to sing. And Aurora sings. So she fits your Disney princess mannerisms. Now I'm going to add this. I don't really hear much about Aurora. I said this with Snow White, but Aurora is the true exception. No one really talks about Aurora, and to me, she's on lines of she's probably the least mentioned or talked about princess I have seen. Because I know of Aurora and I know of her tale, but to me, she is the least talked about. She's less talked about than Snow White. And I know Snow White is mainly talked about because she is the first. Usually people put Aurora in this category of being a damsel in distress. And often people consider the first 3 princesses, and I have heard this, as being the damsels in distress. They are the princesses that needed to be rescued by a man to get past obstacles. I don't ever want to consider Disney princesses as damsels in distress because each princess has their own thing that they bring to the table. And Aurora, to me, her tale is classic. Everybody's tales are classics, but she has so many fairy tale elements that Sleeping Beauty is just that classic tale. There's a bunch of little tales in one put together. So her story had uniqueness about it. Let's see what else I can bring here. I love Aurora's looks. To me, Aurora is the only one Disney princess to me with the most unnatural eye color. Let me explain. Aurora's eyes are violet, and I think that is really beautiful about her. I love her eyes. I don't know why. It's just I love the color of her eyes. They're violet. It's really pretty to me. And also the fact that people really aren't sure on her dress, what her main dress should be. All in all, and I think that's really funny. My thing on her new look, the new redesign for Aurora. They basically made Aurora's hair more curly. It's curlier. They have brightened her hair. It's more golden. What have they done to her hair? Also with Aurora, they have basically put a new design on her dress, tweaked her pink dress a little, and just made it glittery. That's what they've done to Aurora's look. So her first look was classic. Now it's somewhat more modern in a way. That's what they've done with hers. Another thing I can add about Aurora is, from what I've read, when I looked up information, Sleeping Beauty for this princess perspective, the film did not do as well as what everyone hoped it would have, which is what surprised me, because when I looked online, it took $6 million to make, but it made 8 times as much as they was expecting it to make. So I guess that's what confuses me. I don't know what in the world defines a flop back in the day when her film was made, because it was made in 1959, but I thought that was insane. And they said that's why they didn't make another princess movie until 1989, which I guess explains the huge gap in the Disney princesses, because that's the biggest gap you have, from like almost 30-year gap. Well, it is a 30-year gap in Disney princess movies, because it's not like that now, because within that gap you had Ariel, which was 89, and then you had Belle 91, and Jasmine 93, and then a few years later you get Pocahontas, and a few years after that you got Mulan, and then about 10 years after the fact you get Tiana. A year later you have Rapunzel. 2 years later you got Merida, and then a year after Merida you have Anna. So Disney princess films, especially after Ariel's, have all been extremely back to back. But I think that's because when you had Snow White, Cinderella, and Aurora, it wasn't their purpose then was not to make a Disney princess brand. That wasn't the purpose at the time when these films was made. It was just making classics. It was just Walt Disney and turning some of his favorite fairy tales, making them available for everyone. And just to add my final thing for Aurora. Aurora, to me, Sleeping Beauty is a classic tale. It is a tale that it's one of the ones that is getting redone as of now. For people who have not heard, if you've not seen, there's a film starring Angelina Jolie. It's Maleficent. So it's Maleficent's movie, but then you have Elle Fanning, who is a sister of Dakota Fanning, will be portraying Aurora in the film. So it's supposed to be, I guess, Maleficent's search for her, and you're getting Maleficent's backstory. So at least we're going to see Princess Aurora, Disney's Aurora, her being brought on the big screen in the tale, because you already had Snow White, Mirror, Snow White and the Huntsman, and Cinderella's been done so many times. So it's good to see that we are going to see a live action, even if it's not the Sleeping Beauty tale. It is still going to have the Disney characters anyway. There's another film out called Sleeping Beauty, which I do not consider, because I hate it when someone takes fairy tales and makes them adult, because and I hate it when people do that. You do not do that to no fairy tale. You do not make it disgusting and you need mental help if you do that with fairy tales. Okay, all in all, this is it for Aurora. Aurora is, to me, is a good princess. She's just one of the least talked about and one of the least known, and I'm glad that I was able to tell you guys more about her, because she fits the Disney princess bubble, and that is basically who she is. The film, although we do focused on her, is somewhat more focused on Maleficent and Philip than it is on Good Fairies, than it is on Aurora herself. But you still get to know Aurora for who she is. She's kind-hearted. She's sweet. She's a beautiful person. She's your Disney princess in a bottle. So everyone, this is Fresh Mika here, done with this perspective for Aurora. You guys can catch Ariel's perspective. Ariel's perspective is easy. For those of you guys who have not read the original Mermaid tale, and the only thing you know about the Little Mermaid story is the Disney film, get ready to have your childhood ruined. I am sorry, but you're going to have your childhood ruined. So I'm warning you now, if you want to, please read the original Little Mermaid story, and not the redone that the original artist had to do. I'm going to tell you guys how the Little Mermaid actually went, because trust me, Disney lied. Alright everyone, this is Fresh Mika. I'm sorry, I just had to add that to the end of it. You're going to see in my Ariel video how Disney lied to you. Alright guys, Fresh Mika's out.